there are a bunch of people that question the choices the refs make. The general feeling is that NBA fans disagree with refs. I want to see if the fans and the refs actually disagree on calls. Here's how this is going to work. I have 17 plays from this season. 3 shooting fouls, 3 travels, 3 violations in the paint, 3 personal fouls, and 5 plays where there is no foul. The plays that don't have a foul are stopped early to feel like a foul might have happened. I show the plays randomly to people individually. They watch the play one time with the audio muted and the refs covered. That way, they won't hear a whistle or see a ref signal a foul. I haven't recorded the data yet, but I have a few predictions for my experiment. First, I think fans won't call paint violations since most people ball watch. My second prediction is that shooting fouls will be called more often. Third, I think travels won't get called. Since traveling and carrying don't get called as much as they should, people won't notice a missed call like they would a missed shooting foul. Fourth, I think people will be accurate around 60% of the time. With that being said, let's see the data. In total, I got 8 people to take the test. I could have gotten more, but I wanted to finish the video sooner. A few of the people couldn't finish the entire test. That means I have the data for 89 different instances of someone calling a play. The largest percentage of plays were labeled no calls. Out of 89, no foul was called 40 times. Second place was a new group I had to make, miscellaneous. Sometimes a different type of foul was called, like an offensive foul, illegal screen, or charge. Some plays were just labeled a foul without saying what type of foul happened. I put all those combined to make this group. A miscellaneous play happened 22 times. Third up, personal fouls were called 14 times. Right behind that are travels with 13. Shooting fouls were second to last. That means paint violations were called the least amount. Actually, a paint violation was never called during this experiment. Here's a pie chart to see how often plays were called. Some of the data surprised me. So, how accurate were my predictions? First, I said paint violations would get called less. Even though I predicted a small amount of paint violations, I thought it would get called once. I was definitely right about that prediction. My second prediction was that shooting fouls would be called more often. More often is vague, but I was wrong. I forgot about one aspect when making this prediction. The biggest problem fans have with refs are personal and shooting fouls. Fans generally don't want those fouls called, unless it's obviously a foul. They're more likely to notice a shooting or personal foul, but that doesn't mean they'll call a foul. My third prediction was that travels would not get called. Out of all of my predictions, I feel the most conflicted on this one. Travels were called the 4th most out of 6. At the same time, the accuracy of the calls was pretty solid, and I think the stats about travels could really change if I got more people to attempt the test. The final prediction I made is that people will be accurate about 60% of the time. I was way off. So, how often did the fans make the same calls as the refs? The answer is about 30% of the time. If you want to look at how accurate calls were, no foul was accurately called around 43% of the time. Travels were right about 28% of the time, personal fouls were right 27%, and shooting fouls roughly 17% accurate. Since paint violations were never called in the first place, they were never called accurately. All in all, I have one prediction I think was right, 2 predictions I messed up, and one that's not confidently in either side. There are a bunch of things you could do to improve this test. Some parts of my math could be wrong, there's a small sample size of participants and plays, more types of fouls could be added, and the angle of plays to better show what a ref's perspective is. At the same time, there is some to take away with this test. What should be called changes person to person. Since there are teams and players we root for and against, our biases change what we might consider a foul. There's a quote about sound design that reminds me of referees. Bad sound design is obvious, good sound design is invisible. You'll always hear about bad refs, but never about the refs that make the right calls. They have to make multiple important calls on the fly. On average, an NBA team plays 103 possessions a game. Since there are 10 people on the court, there could be over 1,000 chances of a foul. If a ref is wrong 1% of the time, those 10 instances could change their public image as a referee and the game. It's easy to say refs are bad, but there's a reason only 72 people are official referees. Plus, they're not calling what they think is a foul, they're calling what the league would consider a foul. Before you bash a ref, I hope you remembered this video, and thank you for watching. If you want to take the test yourself, watch this video on the right. If you've taken the test already, check out the video on the left.